Welcome, my name is Elin. I'm Counselor for Culture Affairs at the Embassy of Sweden in London. And I am thrilled to be here. I'm mostly thrilled about these guys coming up later on. But this is a presentation of a project that we have done, a bilateral project between Sweden and the UK that is financed through the Swedish Institute support Point in Time. And it started off by a conversation together with Malmö Opera on how can we create space and time for new ideas to happen. And we went away from that meeting, and then we started thinking, and we said, like, okay, we need some great minds in the same room, because we know what Sweden has, we know what the UK has, and together, maybe new ideas can be created. And we filled the room with some great people, and a few of them are here. But I am not going to tell you how to develop new ideas, because I'm just a humble civil servant. So we brought the best that the United Kingdom can offer. We have one of the person who brought a napkin with an idea that became Fleabag. And then she did the same with Baby Reindeer and other things. We have Francesca Moody here today, and she's going to guide us through how a new idea can be developed and maybe be a great mistake or a great success. And after that, we're going to see a few ideas actually take the stage. So Francesca, welcome.
Thanks, Elin. That's a very embarrassing way to start a speech. So hi, everyone. I'm Francesca Moody. I'm a theatre producer, a professional plate spinner, and someone who has spent a slightly unreasonable amount of time trying to convince people that new writing, and particularly new musicals, are worth the risk. In my career thus far, I've had the enormous privilege of working on shows where I've seen firsthand the value of patience, time, and investment to bring ideas to life and grow them into commercially successful shows. So, our production of Fleabag, it started out as a tiny show at the Edinburgh Festival, but ended up in a 700-seat West End theatre and as a globally successful TV show. Our production of Cathy and Stella Solve a Murder, a musical which began its life as a scrappy five-hander at the Edinburgh Fringe with just a man and his piano, eventually ended up in a 16-week run in the West End with a cast of 10 and a band of 4. Neither of these things happened overnight. Neither of them happened without a degree of what I'm calling delusional optimism, the belief that if you take a risk, everything will be all right. Neither of them happened without the support of other producers, venues, and partners. So let's start with a simple truth, but one which perhaps most people here already know. Musicals take time. Hamilton took 7 years, Les Miserables took 5 years, and Cathy and Stella took 4 years. That's more time spent on a project than most sensible people would recommend, and certainly more time than the majority of funding models can comfortably allow for. A musical often arrives in pieces. A song here, a half-finished book there, a concept that works brilliantly in theory and completely collapses the moment someone tries to stage it. If you look historically, the great musicals we now think of as classics were not born fully formed. They were rewritten, reworked, previewed, and often completely overhauled in front of audiences. Entire songs were cut overnight, characters disappeared, endings changed, sometimes repeatedly, and that was certainly my experience on Cathy and Stella. Over the life of the production, there were 4 stage endings of that show in different theatres, which honestly nearly killed me and the creative team. It's a development process that depends on iteration, and iteration, unfortunately, is not cheap. Developing musicals requires sustained investment and an infrastructure to support it, and if done right, the rewards can be extraordinary, both artistically and commercially. In the UK, we've seen a wave of smaller, smarter musicals that didn't begin with huge budgets and institutional backing. Shows that started life in small rooms with small teams. Six began as a student production at the Edinburgh Fringe before it quite literally took over the world. Operation Mincemeat at a small London theatre, the New Diorama, now running in the West End and on Broadway. Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York at a regional theatre, the Royal and Durngate, has just received 8 Tony nominations. Crucially, what all these musicals have in common was that they were given a space to grow. They were allowed to be imperfect at the beginning. They were allowed to fail a little and then try again. And over time, they built audiences, they built momentum, and eventually they became the success stories that we now know. But of course, none of that happened by accident. It happened because there was and is a really great pipeline in the UK. Sometimes informal, occasionally fragile, but a very real ecosystem of venues, producers, festivals, and funders who understand that new work, particularly new musicals, need somewhere to go before they're ready. In the UK, we have the New Musical Theatre Network, the Beam Showcase, Birmingham Hippodrome's New Musical Department, the other Palace Lates, and the National Theatre Studio. We have producers who genuinely back work and theatres who make space in their schedules for it. The development of a new musical might start with a tour, might start with a scratch night, followed by a short run at the Fringe, then a regional theatre, then a tour, then if everything aligns, perhaps something bigger. A journey is rarely linear, and it's almost never quick. A pipeline allows writers, composers, directors, choreographers, and designers to experiment, collaborate, and refine their work over time. Because without that pipeline, often something quite predictable happens. People stop trying, or they take their work elsewhere, or they try to make something that's finished too early, which is often the fastest way to stop it from ever becoming truly great. It's why I'm so excited to be here today, because there's a real opportunity for Sweden to really build and strengthen a pipeline for the development of new musicals here on home soil, and in particular through SMTN, who have the potential to recreate and expand the development infrastructure that's already here. Let's have more rooms with, where artists can test ideas without the pressure of perfection, where producers can take a calculated risk, where audiences are invited into the process rather than just the final product. It might be a festival of new musicals. It might be a series of workshops. It might be a partnership between theatres and independent producers. What matters is continuity, that there isn't just one opportunity, but several over time, that a project can fail and then come back stronger, that there is, in essence, a ladder, and perhaps today could be the start. And with more original musicals coming out of Sweden, I think there truly would be the opportunity for cross-border collaboration. I'd love to see, and this is where I'm going to get my Swedish pronunciation terribly wrong, Så som I Hemlen in the West End, or the next Operation Mincemeat do its regional tryout here in Malmö. A show that starts in London might discover something new in Stockholm. A Swedish musical might find a completely different energy in Edinburgh or Manchester. From a practical perspective alone, collaboration helps us share the risk. Development costs can be split, productions can be co-created, work can have a longer life because it has multiple homes. Of course, I'm not suggesting that every project needs to become an international co-production. That would be exhausting. But creating pathways for collaboration, even occasionally, would have a huge impact. It would open doors for artists, expand audiences, and in my opinion, strengthen the overall ecosystem of new musicals in both countries. And perhaps most importantly, it can make the whole process feel a little less precarious, because making musicals is precarious. It's a precarious business. It involves a lot of saying, trust me, this will work, even when you're not entirely sure that it will. It's sitting in shows thinking, there's something brilliant here, even when it's buried under 3 unnecessary subplots about a dog that definitely need to go. And it's a lot of delusional optimism. Developing musicals takes time, more than we often want to admit, and it requires investment, not just financial, but structural. And with all of these things, the rewards are real, artistically and commercially, and culturally. I can say that firsthand from my experience. That's why I think it's a real opportunity here for SMTN that makes those rewards possible, to create spaces where new musicals can grow, fail, and grow again, to really give new musicals a chance here in Sweden. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So, Francesca, would you like to join us again on stage?
I don't have anything prepared.
No. But maybe there are, I don't know whether it's possible to have some light up in the auditorium.
Yeah. Well, the first thing to say is if no one here picks up those musicals, I will, so... because they were all so brilliant. But yeah, I suppose this is maybe an opportunity if anyone has any questions for me about the development of new musicals.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you don't have to.
Hi. I'm Charlotte, and this is my colleague Daniel, and we are doing this really well. But do you have like the 3 biggest tips that you can share? What is useful for you?
Yeah, sure. I think I really mean what I said before about delusional optimism. Like, I think you just have to believe that it's going to be okay, because musicals take so long. So I think sort of my first thing would be to say, like, patience. Like, you have to be patient. I think if you think something's good, then you back it, and you keep backing it, and you keep going. But I also think that my best experience of developing musicals is actually putting it in front of people. So I definitely more on the side of less workshops, more invited audience in the process. That could be in a workshop scenario, but I think that sometimes a lot of my work is in the comedy space. Like, there's a lot of comedy in the work that I've produced, so it suits that from a kind of development perspective. So yeah, I don't know if that was a clear 3 answer. Patience, delusional optimism, get the audience in. Yeah.
I have a question. What do you think is most important? Is the economic aspect of putting money into the public, or is it the sort of infrastructure to give them a space to be? What is most important?
I think you need money to have infrastructure, but I think that it's a really hard question, because that's like a Sophie's choice. I think the truth is you need both. If I'm being really honest, and I think both are kind of equal importance. Like, there's no point in throwing loads of money at a project without having some infrastructure around it. But there's also no point in having like space without any money to help that space be meaningful. So yeah, I feel that's a cop-out answer, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Can I just say one thing, which is that the reason that, having moved to Sweden 3.5 years ago and having had a lifetime of working with new musicals in the UK, and I see here what I saw in the UK 35 years ago, which was that there are fantastic young artists working, creating musicals in this country. And there are amazing facilities in this country that actually the UK envies. You for your facilities, your theatres, the fact that you all close in the summer holiday every summer, which means that they're all empty and could be filled with new work. And I just see an opportunity for helping young people not feel outside the big wall of the institutions, because it is overwhelming. Because they are strong walls, those institutions, for good reasons. And the other point, really, that was the main driver for me is that this project is 4 theatres coming together, 1 institution and 1 commercial company. And I just think that collaboration of that sort in a world where every year we get less money from the government to support the arts, then it is time to perhaps think either we do less or we grow by working together. And I hope that we've modelled one small example of what happens when we work together, and the delight that all of those institutions have had during that journey has been, wow, this is great working together. We should do this all the time. So that's my message to your industry, our industry, is support these young people by working together. Thanks.